And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Jacked Up and Being Frank. This is our second episode. We are here live in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, as we're here to talk to you about the world of sports, particularly the big stories that are going on right now. And arguably the biggest story in sports is the New York Mets. Major League Baseball postseasons in the Division Series. The Mets are on a great run. And it's not only a great run, they've had a terrific season the last 4+ months. They've had the best record in baseball. Bunch of drama took place this past week since we last talked to you on Sunday. So we'll take you through a little bit of that, and we'll preview today's game 2 of the National League Division Series between the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. I am Frank Aranio, once again joined by Jack Yablonowitz here on Jacked Up and Being Frank. So we're so excited to talk with you today, not only about MLB, we'll talk NBA season's coming up, preseason, the big Knicks trade with Karl-Anthony Towns. We broke down last week. Jack's going to have more to say about that today, and then we'll get into what's going on in the National Football League. So, Jack, first of all, how you doing today? And what do you have to say about the New York Metropolitans?
Well, we thought, what was it, before the Brewers game, but even before the Braves game, we were talking. We're like, okay, maybe the Mets will just make it in the playoffs, maybe, and then they'll get bounced out by the Brewers, or they'll beat the Braves in one game, get bounced out by the Brewers in maybe 3 or 2 games. But no, they came to play. They beat the Brewers, and then we're like, okay, well now we're gonna get bounced by the Phillies. But no, I mean, I think the feeling going to Game 1 was it was definitely pro Mets because of the way Pete Alonso played in that Game 3 where he hit that big home run. When you need that guy unlocked. Every single playoff team, they have that one power guy. You look at the Phillies, they have a bunch of great power guys. You look at all the teams that are still Aaron Judge and the Yankees. You have those type of players where they have big power guys. And we have our big power guy, and he has not been playing very well. And you have that guy getting going in the wild card series. That's definitely the best way you can get him going is by a home run that wins you a big game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that home run was obviously huge. I mean, that moment, they're down 2-0, top of the 9th. They got 2 outs left to work with, and he hits as big a home run as you're going to see. I mean, it's a wild card round. It's not the World Series. But for the Mets franchise and all the disappointment they've had and all the times they've come up short in big spots, I mean, to have that with their franchise player. Now, he's going to be a free agent. We don't know if he's going to be back with the Mets or not. There's debate over it. Seems like the fan base is pretty split on that. I think there was a time where pretty much every Mets fan wanted him back. But with
there was also a time where everybody wanted him gone. When he dropped that ball in the Brewers game, it may be fan interference, whatever. It was right near the fence where the fans were. He dropped it, everybody booed him. I'm like, okay, I want this guy gone. I didn't think he could hit a home run. I want this guy. This guy is showing zero effort. He can't hit the ball at the plate. And I feel like it was 100-0. Everybody wants Pete Alonso gone at one point. So it wasn't always split. I feel like at points for Pete Alonso struggling, it's like, what is that guy used for? Let's not pay him this big money because there's money, big time money.
It's a legitimate issue. I mean, he's going to get a big contract from someone, I think. Even though he's had a down year, I think he's the type of guy with his resume where someone will pay him big money. There's going to be teams that have a need
at first base
for a right-handed power bat. I know a team that does. That's about 220 miles north of here. They play at Fenway Park, but they really don't spend too much money anymore. But he would be someone that could fit for the Boston Red Sox. And there's other teams too out there. So I think somebody, I don't think it's going to be the Red Sox because they don't spend money anymore really like they used to. But I think somebody's going to spend big money on him. And maybe it's the New York Mets. I mean, if he continues to carry the Mets in the postseason, has more big moments, and has a really good postseason, the Mets will be more prone to say, well, you know what? He's proven that he could do it on the biggest stage. So we're going to give him the money, and we're going to bring him back. We're going to lock him up, and he'll be a Met for life or close to it. And Steve Cohen has the resources to do it. So it's very interesting how the conversation has changed. As you said, I mean, maybe with that drop ball in the 7th inning of Game 3 in Milwaukee, the knee-jerk reaction, all right, enough of Alonso, we're ready to move on. He hits the home run, and then people's minds are changed. But I tell me what you think, Jack. I don't think fans have gone from definitely got to get him out of here or definitely got to let him go to, oh, yeah, let's definitely bring him back. Is that the case, or is it he hit the big home run and now people are thinking more level-head about it, saying, okay, we went too far with this. He hit this big home run. We're excited. He's capable of this, but we got to see how things play out in the offseason.
Well, I think it's more of emotion. Like people are like, okay, he hit this big home run. Oh my goodness, give him a blank check. Let's get out of here. I think it's more of that emotion. But still, at the end of the day, there's gonna be a team that pays him a lot of money. Let's look at the stats here. It's still not really that good, even though he hit a 3-run home run. But hey, that hit right there, that makes fans go crazy and go, hey, give him a blank check. But no, I don't really think that's how the Mets are going to work.
He's hitting 154 in the playoffs. That's 4 games. It's not a big sample size. But it's not like he's hitting 375. It's not like he's hitting over 300. His OPS is 679. But you know what? It's about big moments. So he came up big, huge in that moment with the season on the line. That's more important to look at a guy's stat line in the postseason and say, oh, well, this guy batted 280 or this guy batted 220. Well, I'll take the guy who bats 220 who comes up with the big hits in the big spots. So if he continues to come up big in big spots, even if his postseason average is 240, I was like, oh, hit the home run in Milwaukee. He got the big hit in Philadelphia. If they go on, he got a couple big hits against the Dodgers and then a couple of big hits against the Guardians in the World Series. I will not say Yankees, although it could be the Yankees. But it's going to be very interesting when we get into the offseason what happens with Pete Alonso. I think you got to avoid the extremes, the emotional roller coaster, which is understandable. Fans do that. We all do it. I've done it. But right now is not the time for that to really be thought about. As a fan, you can have fun with it. But, there's going to be a time where we have much more discussion about whether or not Pete Alonso should be back with the Mets.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on how far the Mets do go. And I think this gives us a very good understanding of how baseball really works. And to me, I'm not a big baseball fan, but it gave me a big sample size or give me a big thing about how baseball works. One swing and your whole career could change. Yeah. The whole baseball game changed. And
your whole career could be defined by one swing. One moment. It really can. It's not really fair. Things can get blown out of proportion, and they often do. We all do it. So this home run, look, it's a huge home run. But when it comes time to deciding whether or not you bring back Alonso, and there's other factors. It's not just whether or not you want to bring him back. I mean, you could be of the mindset, which I don't know how many people are if they're a home run, but before the home run, there were plenty of Mets fans saying, oh, I don't even want to bother. We want to give him an offer. He's just let him go. Versus, well, give him an offer. This is what the offer should be. We're not going above this. Somebody else offers him more. Let him go. So I think we do have to see the postseason play out, but we also have to take the whole body of work. And yeah, this season does factor in there, the decline this season. So there's different factors there. And again, the Mets do have the money to spend, but you know what? If you spend big money on him, Steve Cohen will spend a lot of money, but then that takes away from money that he could spend on other things. So it's a very interesting situation, and it definitely has changed since he hit that home run 3 nights ago.
Yeah, I definitely think it's changed. And I mean, I think as we talk about the Mets and their home runs, I think I'm going to go to my second point. I think it's a great transition to my second point of saying that the Mets can win different ways. You saw them win a game where Pete Alonso hit a bomb to opposite field, but you can also have a game where the Mets just dig and doink the relief pitcher. And I mean, I think it's great to see that if you keep games with the ace, you get to have bullpen as good as it is. It's not Zach Wheeler. You're not playing Zach Wheeler anymore. You're playing maybe a lesser player. Maybe as less as it is.
The Phillies bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that good. It's okay. It's not some lights out bullpen. And that situation yesterday, and you bring up a great point that the Mets are winning in different ways because you don't want to just rely on the long ball. I know there's stats out there about the long ball in the postseason, the teams that have hit the most home runs and have been the teams that have won in the postseason. but you still need to be
That
able
game one, yeah.
to win in different ways.
Like Kyle
you need a
Schwarber
versatile lineup.
Kyle Schwarber hits a bomb like
And that's all the
batter,
Phillies did.
and that's all they did. But you got to be able to rely on those dink and dunk plays. That's why Jose Iglesias is very important. That's why the players like that are so important because when they get on base,
a great guy to have.
When they get on base, it's amazing. I mean, Lindor walks, got a lot of walks. People don't want to pitch to him anymore. I mean, getting deep in the playoffs, people have scouting reports. They don't want to pitch to you. Like the Mets didn't want to pitch to Bryce Harper. Fair, but they're not going to pitch to Francisco Lindor because how good he is. I think once you get in the playoffs, you don't pitch to those type of guys.
Yeah, and again, I love your point that the Mets are winning in different ways. The long ball, Lindor with the long ball against the Braves. But before the long ball that gave them the 8-7 lead in the ninth, they strung together hits in the 8th inning. That was more piecing it together. So they were down 3-0 going to the 8th. And then when they scored the 6 runs at the top of the 8th, I mean, was there a home run in that inning? I don't remember whether it was or not, but they strung together hits.
Just straight up.
I don't remember if there were walks in there, but that was more of an inning where it was
just dink and doink,
getting guys on base, moving guys along,
second at home,
stringing together a rally that they scored 6 runs. Then Lindor hits the home run to give them the lead, which eventually became the game-winning home run.
It made it feel like Brewers baseball, which David Stearns was a Brewers general manager. Feels like what he tried to put together in the Brewers. And I mean, funny, they beat the Brewers, but feels like Brewer baseball, which is a bigger stage. And that's what David Stearns tried to put together.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see the imprint of Stearns on this team.
Yeah.
And he's been a very successful GM. We'll see, what level he takes the Mets to. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see where this postseason goes because the Mets, the way they've played. And again, this is not just some run. They've had the best record in baseball for over 4 months now, and they're getting it done in the big games. End of the regular season, wild card round, yesterday in Philadelphia. So the Mets are legit. They can win the whole thing. There's no question about it. I mean, I am of the mindset that anybody in the MLB playoffs can win it all, but there's teams that have greater chances than others. And the New York Mets, I think, not that they're the favorite, they're not, but they're right in the thick of it. I mean, there is a path for them, and they got to keep getting it going. There's going to be a lot of pressure situations, a lot of big moments that they'll have to succeed in. But they've shown that they have the capability to get it done on a big stage, in a big spot, in a big game.
I think let's talk about New York Grit and how they've been playing with New York Grit. 1-0, third pitch of the game, out of here. A lot of teams would just back down, give up. A lot of teams would give up 3-0 against the Braves. A lot of teams would give up a back-to-back home run by Sal Frelick and Jake Bauers. Give up, put the towel in. But the Mets haven't done that, and they have 3 opportunities to lose, and I've just named that up.
Yeah,
but they don't back down, and that's the difference between a good team in the Braves and a World Series type team. I said it here: the Mets have World Series qualities, and they don't give up. I think that's just simple, just not giving up. And when you're down 3-0, down 2-0, down 1-0. You just don't give up. I think that's just easy World Series just mentality.
Yeah, they have that mindset, that grit, and they also have talent. I mean, they're not the most talented team. There's teams that are significantly more talented.
The bullpen,
but they, and they have holes. But I mean, they have Francisco Lindor. He would be the MVP of the National League if not for not for the guy who I think is going to wind up, no doubt, being classified as the best baseball player ever with what he does, Shohei Ohtani. So you can say Lindor, he had an MVP season, no question that he did. Pete Alonso's had a down year, but you have a big-time power bat in the middle of the lineup. You have Nimmo, the way he puts together at-bats. You have a veteran, J.D. Martinez.
And a veteran, Iglesias.
Marte.
Winker. And you also have, young people and Acuna off the bench. You have Vientos.
The Mets have a good, versatile, tough lineup. I mean, they string together good at-bats. They could beat you with the long ball. They could beat you, base to base with base hits, some walks in there, drive the gap. So they have a versatile lineup. an offense that presents problems for the opposing team pitching staff. And I mean, yesterday, that win, that's the type of win where you say, all right,
going in the October.
This team is so for real. Now I know you can say that about Game 3 of the wild card
That's
series,
the wild card.
but that game was like okay. And the Brewers are a good team, and man, they must be devastated because they keep getting to the playoffs and they keep going out early. They've had some real devastating losses over the years. But you get that home run, huge. But it's like okay, now you're going to play Philadelphia. Philadelphia is better than Milwaukee. You're starting against Wheeler at Citizens Bank Park. It's like, okay, that's a tall task yesterday. And Wheeler shut them down. He did shut them down. He was on his game. He had 9 strikeouts. Did have 5 walks, but Wheeler pitched a dominant game. But they got him out of there. I mean, they got him out of there. He was up to
kept it close.
110 pitches, and even just getting him to 110 pitches. If he had pitched a game where he was only at 90 pitches after 7 innings, he's coming out for the 8th inning. But he's not coming out at 110. He's not coming back out to the mound at 110. They're taking him out. They're going to the bullpen. Modern baseball is just the way it is.
And also, David Peterson kept that team in it. When Kodai Senga pitched well in 2 innings, he just couldn't pitch that much. Crazy that Mendoza put that kind of bomb down on the Phillies that we're gonna pitch Kodai Senga. But then Kodai Senga pitched 2 innings because you don't want to push him that far. Then David Peterson shut him down. I mean, those type of players, Dave Peterson's of the world, the Jose Butos of the world, have been great for the Mets. Jose Buto let up a back-to-back home run, but you know what I mean. Like those type of players have meant wonders for the Mets. And I mean, you have these players like a Christopher Sanchez, a Matt Schramm, and they're just getting lit up. Like you got to have those players where you bond a budget, and those players got to show up. And who's going to show up? It's not about talent right now. It's about who wants to show up in these big moments. And Dave Peterson of the world have shown up.
Yeah, I mean, the job yesterday the Mets staff did after Senga came back through 2 innings. I mean, that was big-time excitement for the Mets and their fans getting him back. They kept him limited because he hasn't pitched all year, except for that 1 game. But, that's a boost for them. And
we didn't have to use Edwin Diaz, and not we. The Mets haven't used Edwin Diaz. I mean, it's crazy. I'm saying we.
Yeah.
But bro, it's
I'll let you slide come playoff time.
Yes.
But, yeah, you're right. Don't use Diaz yesterday. Yeah. You got him fresh today. I mean, and that was big because he pitched a lot on Thursday night in Milwaukee, so you get him 2 days rest. He's fresh for today, another off day tomorrow. So, I mean, what a huge win yesterday. And look, if the Mets had lost yesterday, they weren't by any means done. You get a win today. You're 1-1 going to Citi Field on Tuesday. I mean,
so much pressure on this Phillies team to be.
Huge pressure to Phillies. And that yesterday was really a game that the Phillies needed to win more. Now, look, I don't like saying, like, you have nothing to lose and even the house money stuff. I don't buy that because there's pressure on every team. Every team's looking to win. You're in the playoffs. If you're in the Major League Baseball playoffs, you have a chance to win it all. Even if it's a small chance, everybody in the MLB playoffs has a chance to win the World Series. Teams have gone on runs that have won 83 games, 85 games. Arizona won 84 games last year. They were in the World Series. Philadelphia won 87 the year before. They went to Game 6. They're up 2-1 on the Houston Astros. If you're in it, you could win. So I don't like the whole house money and no pressure thing. There's pressure on everyone. However, I think it's fair to say there's more pressure on the Philadelphia Phillies than the Mets going into the series. And there's certainly more pressure on the Phillies going into today's game than the Mets.
But I feel like the Mets have felt that, like, and not like they don't have any pressure, but I feel like the weight off their shoulders of, like having all that pressure. I feel like they still have pressure, but just a weight off their shoulders to be able to swing and play their game of baseball instead of having to be like, the air, like kind of like choked with the air out of them. And
well, I agree with you. I mean, there's definitely an element of that. With them winning that game in Atlanta, getting into the playoffs, weight lifted off their shoulders. Because the franchise history comes into it. And I don't think that's fair to the current players. That's always been a thing throughout the years of sports where it's the current players have to deal with the history of the franchise, whether it's the New York Mets, the New York Jets, the Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs before they won World Series. It's not fair to those current players, but it is a reality. It's something that they have to deal with. And you need guys on the team that will deal with that the right way. You need guys to say, enough with this stuff. We were not here in 2007 and 2008 when the Mets collapsed. Some of the guys on the team were 5 years old at the time, 10 years old. Like, it's like they had nothing to do with that. So I think you got to have guys who know how to approach that because that's always going to come up, with the media and the fans. So the Mets getting over that big hurdle in Atlanta, a house of horrors for them. That sweep 2 years ago in Atlanta cost the Mets a division. So they exercised demons there. There's no question about it. As Nimmo hits one to center, if you're following along with the game right now. So the Mets have a runner on third with 2 outs in the top of first with Sanchez, the lefty, pitching for the Phillies, which was a controversial decision for Philadelphia. Maybe we'll get into that in a couple moments. But again, the Mets got over that big hurdle in Atlanta, and then there was a huge hurdle to get over in Milwaukee. If they'd lost that series, it's like, it went out early, kind of the same old Mets. Yeah, they made the playoffs, good year, but, coming up short again. They get that home run from Alonso. They get to this round. It's another weight off their shoulders, and I do agree with you. I think as this goes on, they are playing freer and freer, and that makes them more and more dangerous.
Yes, I feel like they can play their brand of baseball, which could be different on any given day. Which is the thing about the Mets; they could be different. It could be they won some games in the season where they hit a bunch of bombs, or they can win a game where they dink and dunk you. They just let the game come to them. They just figure out a way to win, and 1-0 to the ace and keeping it close, they found a way to win. I mean, yeah. I think it's big. We've talked about a lot of these New York teams and when they find a way to win, and I think this is another example of a New York team finding a way to win.
Who are these New York teams that find ways to win?
Knicks when they were
recently.
Yes,
they did lose Game 7 in Indiana.
Yeah,
I don't know what New York teams you're talking about.
I'm just thinking about Knicks.
Yankees haven't won in 15 years.
The
Jets and Giants are a mess.
Yeah, but I'm just saying about the Knicks because I agree with
you. The Knicks are back. I mean, they got to go win a championship sometime soon.
No, I mean like
the
injured Knicks when they're finding ways.
Yeah, I mean the injuries did really hurt them last year. But yeah, the Knicks are definitely back. The Knicks are going to be right in the mix, which we're going to be talking about them in a little while. So the Mets didn't score in the top of the first. What do you think of Philadelphia going with Sanchez today instead of Nola?
Well, I think this could be a big Pete Alonso day because he's a right-handed hitter. I mean, let's just look at the Mets starting. I mean, let's just look at Nimmo. Is Nimmo a righty? I think Nimmo's a righty.
He's a lefty.
Lefty. But the Mets do have a lot of righties, which, I don't really know why you would go up with it, especially enabling Pete Alonso to have himself a big game. Imagine Pete Alonso goes off today. I feel like that's just hard for you to win, especially with the way he can hit home runs. And I think there's a lot of stats on home runs. But if you let Pete Alonso go hit a home run, I think that'd be big.
They just showed on Fox that Sanchez has the third lowest home run rate in Major League Baseball. So I would say that's a big factor.
Yes.
I can't say I've seen Sanchez pitch that much this year. I've seen him a little bit. I get both sides of the argument. I think there's a lot of Philly fans that don't like the decision. I have a lot of friends who are Phillies fans, and it seems most of them, in fact, I don't know anybody who said they liked the decision. Not everyone is totally against it, but I honestly haven't heard anybody say they like the decision. I don't know. I lean towards liking the decision. I do. I think I think because he's a pitcher that has a low home run rate, you are at Citizens Bank Park, which is a home run ballpark, very offensive friendly ballpark. I mean, that's the kind of guy that you want pitching in a game like this. And then Nola is the veteran pitcher, where Sanchez is the inexperienced pitcher. Nola has a lot of experience in big games in the postseason. So if you go game 3, for the Phillies, they're hoping it's 1-1. I think you're in a better spot with Nola at Citi Field in that environment on the road than you are with the inexperienced younger pitcher Sanchez. So, I mean, it's a roll of dice today. And they made this decision before they lost yesterday, So it was made before the series started. And I don't think it would have been a good idea to wait. I don't think you do that. But they made the decision, now today it's like, oh, you're down 1-0. You don't have your veteran pitcher going. But honestly, I don't say I love the move, but I lean towards liking the move.
Yeah, but I don't. I'm going back on my first take. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do this, but I don't really know why you're so scared of the Mets home runs. You know how they beat you yesterday by dinking and doinking you, and they could do the same thing today. It's not like the Mets are. This is like a thing that the Mets just did once. They do this stuff where they just dink and doink you. That's what the team has been able to do with Nimmo, Iglesias.
But I think you're considering the ballpark. Citi Field is more of a pitcher's park, not as much as it used to be once they moved in the fences. But it's a pitcher's park. Philadelphia Citizens Bank Park is clearly a hitter's park. It's a home run park. So you go with a pitcher who doesn't give a lot of home runs. And then you'll also have Nola game 3. Like, if the Phillies could win today, I think they're in a better spot having Nola for game 3. I think on the road, in a hostile environment, against your arch rival, against a good team that's been playing really well, and it's going to be tough in their park, I think you're going to be better off with the veteran pitcher than you are with the inexperienced younger pitcher. So, you got to win this game today if you're Philadelphia. But I think you got to go back before yesterday's game. I don't think you go hindsight, they're down 1-0 now, even though that could be factored into your thinking before yesterday. I understand that. But again, overall, I kind of like the decision. Sanchez has been good for them, and he's going to have to pitch one of these games. So if Philly, they win today, I think they go into game 3 in a pretty good spot, having Nola on the bump.
Have people done that before with the Kodai Senga? I'm just changing the topic. With the Kodai Senga, where he just got announced a day before that he's playing, and he's been out a lot. Have teams done that to get in people's heads? Get in the other team's heads?
Well, maybe that was part of the Mets thing. That's a good point by you. That definitely could be the case where they held out on saying anything. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because then, the Phillies are not thinking Senga. They're not preparing for him.
They're thinking Severino or Peter.
And when did the Mets announce it? They announced that on Friday?
Yeah.
It was definitely Friday. Was it Friday morning? I forget exactly the time. I think it was Friday morning.
And Rob Thompson said he was surprised before the game. He said I'm surprised. Like, look, even if he went 2 innings, it's just you're having to prepare for that forkball. You're going to have to sit there and prepare a long time to hit that forkball.
Yeah.
That pitch alone.
I don't know if – was he – well, no, I'm sorry. He wasn't on the roster.
No, they activated him and Tyler McGill.
He wasn't on the roster in the wild card series.
No.
Yeah. Yes, we don't know how it transpired. Was it Senga? He's not going to be ready for the wild card series, but he's going to be ready to go for the division series. But you know what? I don't even know if you could say it's gamesmanship where they were holding off because they had to get through the wild card series.
Yeah.
Why?
But I do think gamesmanship of they're so surprised that Senga was going to pitch. You would have thought Severino would have went down game 1 or Manaya. You were not preparing for let's think about it. Senga's such a good pitcher. He's not one of those other pitchers. He's their ace. Yeah. Whenever he gets out there, he's their ace. So having that surprising, it surprised Rob Thompson. If it didn't mean to surprise Rob Thompson, it surprised him.
Was there talk of Senga coming back for the playoffs?
I think there was a little bit of talk, maybe NLCS, that type of talk.
Okay. Yeah, so there was chatter out there. But it was so Thompson, I'm assuming, was surprised that he was starting game 1.
Yes.
Not so much that he could pitch at any point. Because again, I honestly don't know. I don't know if it was out there that you're saying it was out there that he might be back sometime in the playoffs.
World Series, that type of thing.
So then at what point did they know that he would be ready for the division series? But again, why say anything? He wasn't on the wild card series roster. He wasn't ready for that. So. But
then you bounce it back with Peterson. I keep saying it over and over again. They're all talking about how Wheeler pitched an amazing game, which, yes, shout out the announcer. They did great about explaining how good Wheeler is. But where's the love for Peterson? The man pitched great against a very good Phillies order, and he really kept the Mets ship up after being down 1-0.
Yeah. Yeah, Schwarber right off the bat hit a home run. Citizens Bank Park is rocking, and then Senga kept it at that, and then Peterson came in.
And he had Reed Garrett. That
had the Phillies scoreless. Yeah, there can't be enough said about Peterson's performance. And the lift that the Mets got from Senga being back, now he's a factor. He's going to be limited. He's probably going to be in this type of role.
He may be game 1 in LCS. I feel like that might be a role they're going to play. Or game 5, he'll pitch to again.
I mean, could he come in at some point? Could he come in relief in this series? I don't know. We don't know.
I don't know if he's ever played
how much he's capable of right now, health-wise. I mean, I would think if he pitched 2 innings yesterday, he could come back at some point in this series.
But I think if the Mets win game 2, I feel like they're really going to be like, let's get you ready for game 1 of NLCS. I know that's crazy thinking, but let's get you ready for game 1 of NLCS.
Well, I wouldn't
if you
start thinking about that yet, and you really can't. I get what you're saying. Yes.
I'm jumping the gun a little bit.
Well, we can here on our show. We can look ahead as far as we want. As Alonso snags one off. I feel like Pete Alonso's
been a very good first baseman defender. I feel like he's gotten hate a little bit by people, but he's really progressed as a first baseman defender. Just diving on it, and
he's going to be a DH eventually. I think that's coming soon, but I still think there's a lot left in his bat, and I think somebody's going to give him good money. I'm not exactly sure what that money's going to be, but I think somebody is going to pay him.
Maybe a team that needs a first baseman to push him over the hump, type thing.
Yeah, somebody needs a first baseman, right-handed power bat. Like I said, I know the Red Sox. That's something they need. Well, they have a first baseman. They have Tristan Casas, but there's rumors of them trading him. That's a possibility. But anyway, there's going to be teams that have that need, and I think somebody's going to pay him big money.
And the fun thing right now is that the Mets don't even have to worry about that. It's not even in their mind right now. I mean, it might be a little bit, but they don't really have to worry about that much. They're in an
team's not thinking about it. Is Stearns
probably
thinking about this stuff? Absolutely. I mean, that's his job.
Yeah.
His job is to plan for the short term, but more so the long term. So he's certainly thinking about this stuff, and they're having their meetings about it. But yeah, the team is not focusing on this at all. But it's good motivation for Pete Alonso. I mean, don't anybody think for a second that it's not on his mind. I mean, you don't want it to be too much in your mind, but it's a motivating factor. So it could be used for good. So for him, the free agent is like, hey, if I have a big postseason, I could be raking in a lot more cash if I continue to step up the way I did against Milwaukee in Game 3 with the home run. Yeah, so the Mets are in a good spot. I mean, this could be very interesting to see how this game unfolds today. I mean, if they go up, we were talking before the show, they go up 2-0. Obviously, they're in a great spot. Is the series totally over? Can't say that, but I mean, I think the Mets would win the series if they win today. If they don't win today, it's 1-1. I mean, they're still feeling good. They're going to Citi Field, but Philly's very good. I think Philly's bats will get going. I'd be surprised if they don't, but Philly's been off for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, the Mets don't have those type of the Mets can really, not shut down, but they can really contain these bats. I mean, let's just talk about Severino. He's been great this season. Same with Manaea. I know how good the Phillies are, but I feel like you can give him 2 to 3 runs, not push that 7-8 where you're getting out of hand. I don't think the Mets will be. I don't think it'll be like that right now when you have pitchers like Manaea and pitchers like Severino. That's where the Mets are looking. Let's not get 7-8. Let's not get 5-6.
I'm not saying the Phillies are going to have that type of game, but I would think the odds are their bats are going to get going. Look, it was one game, but their bats did nothing yesterday. And the postseason is a lot different than the regular season. Yeah, it's the game of baseball, but it's a lot different. You're in a short series, best of 5, and their offense was a no-show yesterday. Besides Schwarber, who had the home run, had 2 hits. But you can't afford to be a no-show again today. I mean, there's immense pressure on them. Now they're a veteran team with a potent lineup.
But if they keep walking Harper, then who else is going to show up?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have other guys that can step up. I mean, they have a very good lineup. They have one of the best lineups in baseball.
Yes, down, up, and down. It's like another all-star. Dang.
And they've been there before. They've done it. I mean, they went quietly against Arizona in those last 2 games of the NLCS last year, but they still had a deep run again last year after going to the World Series, going to Game 6 against Houston. So the Phillies have done it before. The Phillies know how to get it done in the postseason. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond today as we get an error from Sosa at third base as Iglesias is going to stop at second. So that was top of the second now. Leadoff hitter Jose Iglesias, ground ball to third base. Sosa throws it away. Now, Sosa is in the lineup today in place of Alec Bohm. So already we see an impact with that decision on the defensive side for Philadelphia. So that was a big decision that was made by Rob Thompson to play Sosa over Alec Bohm today. So I'm sure the Philly fans right now, a lot of them are yelling and not happy and saying you should have played Bohm because Sosa just threw one down the right field line, and the Mets have runner on second with nobody out in the top of the second. So we have talked a lot of Mets. We'll come back to the Mets. Jack has plenty more to say about the New York Knicks and specifically the trade where they acquired Karl Anthony Towns for the Minnesota Timberwolves, sending Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo to Minnesota. So, Jack, you shared a lot last week on the program. Jack's podcast, Nick of Time, check that out. It's on the same channel as this one. Jack doing an excellent job with Nick of Time. If you want to hear truly the best analysis and breakdown and information about the New York Knicks and the NBA in general, check out Nick of Time, which Jack just recorded season 2, episode 2. So, Jack, take it away. You have the floor. Give us your thoughts on the Karl Anthony Towns trade. Anything else you got with the Knicks starting the preseason?
Well, I mean, we talked about chemistry, and I talked about chemistry, and I was really talking about mostly of you lose DiVincenzo, you lose Randall. That's big time for your chemistry, but I feel like Karl Anthony Towns knows Thibodeau. Like they bring in players who know them well. You bring in players who know them well, and that's how the Knicks really have performed. Where you have Josh Hart plugged in. Where, I mean, I don't think it's that hard. Like you just gotta just play whatever you could do. Like play both sides of the floor. You know, and Thibodeau will just respect you, and you'll learn the plays as it goes. If Karl Anthony Towns doesn't know the plays, you'll just play both sides of the floor. And Thibodeau will be happy, and he'll learn the playbook. I think that's what OG said earlier. When they made that January or December 30th trade was, I was just cutting. I didn't know any plays, but I was just cutting, and playing defense, which he does very well. Which he doesn't really need a play to do that. Just guard the best players. But then it's like, okay, Thibodeau loves that, but then you teach them the plays, and then you can go from there. But for now, it's just be yourself, and then you'll learn the plays and everything. So that's kind of the rest I've on the trade kind of, and the Knicks did some financial stuff, which we're not talking financial stuff, but they made some very good financial.
Well, I thought you broke that down really well. That was very informative with the aprons. At first, I was like, "What's the aprons? What are you talking about?" But that, on Jack's latest episode of Nick of Time, he broke down the aprons. You want to go into that a little bit? The visual was great. He had a visual for it, which was very helpful on his Nick of Time podcast episode. But you want to give us a little bit about how the Knicks, just general. You don't have to break down the whole thing, but just general how the Knicks maneuvered to help themselves financially in terms of the cap.
They made a trade with the G League. It was crazy. Leon Rhodes making trades with the G League, and he's helping himself out, sending players to the G League and stuff like that. And he's trying to get himself a little bit under the second apron, which why you want to be under second apron is because you can't make these type of trades. You're kind of stuck, handcuffed kind of in a way where you can make some trades financially that you really want to make. And now the Knicks can go out and trade, and get more trades done to help the depth because now they're in that first apron where they don't have
call it an apron.
I don't know.
I was like, what? I don't is it I honestly, I mean, maybe I should know this, but apron, I'm going to put apron finance. I don't know. Anyway, so we don't have too much dead air time. I get what you're the apron. I guess is a financial threshold.
Yes, it's kind of threshold.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. The word apron. So the NBA uses the word apron. I know in MLB it's the threshold when it comes to the luxury tax, the competitive balance tax in baseball. So the apron.
And they're really getting mad at Leon Rhodes. The NBA is really going to get down on what Leon Rhodes is doing, which is kind of finessing the system basically, and they're going to get down.
Well, it's not illegal.
No, it's not illegal, but they're going to try to patch it up.
Oh, you mean the NBA? So the NBA, meaning the
Adam Silver.
league office.
Yes.
Yeah. But the teams are all trying to do stuff like that. But now the NBA is going to say, oh, we got to close a loophole or something in order to avoid this. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why
they get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, that's why you try to bring in guys like Leon Rose who know how to do
Or
stuff
Brock
like that.
Aller, like people who are really good with the financial stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I know in the NFL they do that a lot, all these different loopholes. I don't understand it all. And honestly, like it's not worth going into all.
It's just basically the Knicks just saved money, and now they're not financially handcuffed, which you would have thought.
And you said on Nick of Time that it's really going to help them come trade deadline.
Where they can move some pieces.
Yeah.
Well, not in some pieces. They're going to keep the core, but like when you want to get depth and stuff. Because right now the depth is not really that good. But I think right now I've got convinced that the depth is not that bad once Mitchell Robinson goes back because they're going to move Josh Hart to the bench. You have Josh Hart, Deuce, and Precious, where the depth is not really that bad. And I've got convinced that, but I feel like there's still if you want to get better, then you definitely got to.
Well, do you want to give us a little roster breakdown right now? Not too much detail. You'll be doing a lot more of that on Nick of Time, and we'll do it on here as well. But do you want to give us a little bit of the depth chart?
The big thing right now is that do you want to start Deuce McBride or do you want to start Josh Hart? Because if you start Josh Hart, you're going Brunson, Hart, Mikal, OG, and Cat. But if you want to move Hart to the bench, you want to give him that spark play, you can go Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Cat. But it's really not. I think we'll see in the first preseason game because they're still going to go with the starters. They're normal starters. And so Mitch comes back. They're going to go with that. And we're going to see it tomorrow. I mean, we're going to see it later today, how the Knicks really set up.
How does the Knicks starting five match up with other starting fives in the NBA?
Well, I think you can't really.
Are they top five?
If you have top five, definitely. I think top three. But you can't really base it right now because once Mitch comes back, we'll see the big team that the Knicks have really put together of a front line of OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, and Karl-Anthony Towns. You'll see that big front line soon. Not in the I think they're gonna have to keep the ship above water, but once they get Mitch back, you're gonna see the big front line the Knicks have really gone out for.
When is he gonna be back?
I think it's like December, January.
Okay, so they'll have him when it matters most.
Yeah, but you got to keep the ship above water right now, and it's just whatever Thibs. It's gonna be a big time. I think Thibs. This will be one of his years where he had to really coach very well to stagger the minutes, where you can still have some starters in with the bench, and this is gonna be Thibodeau's year to really show what he's learned.
Is he going to have to manage egos with this team, or is this a team full of guys that are team players and you're not going to have to worry about
Well,
that?
most of this team are Villanova guys, which they have learned under Jay Wright of just being unselfish. And Jalen Brunson have played with a bunch of great guys when they won the national championship. Dante, Mikal.
I don't think you could minimize that factor.
No.
I think
and OG's just game is unselfish. It's just playing for the team, guarding whoever he can. And then Cat he wants to win. That's the big thing. He got to the Western Conference Finals last year. He wants to win. He's been on this team in the Timberwolves who haven't really won a lot until they won last year, which is crazy enough. Until they won last year, he's been a player that really just wants to win.
I meant to say you can't over-exaggerate that Villanova factor. I think it's very real. Those guys playing for Jay Wright, winning championships. I think it's a big factor. I love it. I mean, I'm a Seton Hall fan, so I'm not a big Nova guy, but I respect Nova big time. I respect what they did with Jay Wright, and I think it's a big deal. I mean, I don't think you could over-exaggerate or overemphasize the importance of that. So I think it has a factor. I think it is a factor with the Knicks and their chemistry and the way they'll be able to play as a team. You saw it last year. It's refreshing. It's nice to see like the Knicks like they play differently than NBA teams have played in recent years.
Yes. I do think that, but I also think that they've kind of been in with Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau has been a very adapting coach. As people have said over the years, oh, Thibodeau doesn't adapt. When he got fired, he's been around a lot of young coaches, and then he got signed by the Knicks. He was around a lot of young coaches learning the new different systems.
I love how Thibodeau has paid his dues. He's been in the league for so long. He was Van Gundy's assistant, then he was the coach of the Bulls.
Yes.
Back with the Knicks. I mean, he's been doing it a long time. He's gained a lot of experience. He's clearly a very good coach. respect. He's a very good fit for this Knicks team. It's refreshing too. In this age where they're just hiring JJ Redick, bring him in. I think that's going to be a disaster. And honestly, I'm rooting against it. I don't care for him, his whole mindset. I think he's arrogant as can be. Mr. He's got it all figured out mathematically. Like basketball and sports a lot more than math. So I'm just being honest. I'm rooting for that to fail, and I think it will fail. I think it's going to be a disaster.
I do think you. I think,
but he's 40 years old. I'm going to be 40. But it's like you're hiring a 40-year-old guy, never coached before, because you think he's some genius out of Duke. No, give me Tom Thibodeau, Jeff Van Gundy, guys like that. Same thing in the NFL. Sorry to cut you off, Jack. Same thing in the NFL. Give me Bill Belichick should be coaching a team this year. He'll definitely be back next year because there'll be teams that see, you know what, it ain't working with these young guys that we think are geniuses who come up with all these schemes but really don't know how to coach. Somebody's hiring Bill Belichick next year. There's going to be a pendulum swing because I think with these young coaches, it's not all chalked up to be.
I do think the chemistry goes to the coach. Do you respect your head coach? And Carly Towns respects his head coach. Who's going to
respect J.J. Redick? Now, I know J.J. Redick played. I get it. He had success, had a good NBA career. But the guy's never coached. And I just think his way about him, I don't think that's going to translate with.
You got to know your X's and O's too. You got to know your mathematics, but you also got to coach. You also have to pay your dues and know that basketball ain't all about X's and O's, but you also have to know your X's and O's, which that's what I like about.
I just heard him. Yeah. I heard him last year talking about the playoffs and just the way he everything to him is an equation. It's not. There's no human element, and I just don't think this guy gets it. And I think with guys like him, you could have success for a while because, their schemes will work. It's innovative. It's smart. It's based on math. I'm not against math. I'm not against metrics. Like, there's use for it. But I think that eventually runs its course because those type of guys are not complete coaches.
Okay.
And you can't just throw out the factor of experience.
We got our Knicks starting lineup right now. I think that's what I was talking about was when are we getting our Knicks starting lineup? This is the starting lineup. This is the regular starting lineup. OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson. So they are going with.
Could you say that a little slower so I can absorb it? And this is for tonight's preseason game against the Hornets.
Brunson, Mikal, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Carly Towns.
Okay.
So Brunson.
So do you take any stock in these?
Well, he said I'm going to.
Is there anything to take from them? Or is like, yeah.
He said I'm going to go with my normal starting lineup. Yeah. I might not play him a lot, but I'm going to go with them. And if that's going to be,
well, I think that makes sense. You start the preseason, your guys are healthy, start with them. Doesn't mean they're going to play a lot, and they shouldn't play too much. But I like that. And I don't know how much it matters, but I like.
No, I think it matters because you got to see your starting lineup. You got to see it. And we were talking about is Deuce going to get the 2? But no, he's going to come off the bench.
I don't even know. Do they usually do that in NBA preseason?
Well, he said he was going to go with this normal starting lineup, so I'm going to think that's going to be the normal starting lineup come game.
But did they normally do that? I'm just curious. Do they normally do that in the NBA preseason where they go with the regular starting lineup right off the bat?
Yes, I think that's what they do.
I think it's the way they should do it. So I'd say good.
Because definitely with Cap, you're going to try to. I cannot wait to see Cap play actually today. It's going to be fun.
What time's the game?
Like 5.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Earlier tip off.
Not gonna. If you watch, I'm gonna be watching the Mets game, but I can't wait to see what they do, what they run because it's a lot. I mean, I think it's a lot of time he got to learn the plays. He didn't get a lot of time because of the trade didn't get it finalized, but I feel like him and Thibs, they know each other. They're gonna try to see what they can work with, and let's see if the Knicks can get out for the hot start because that'll show you how good they can be.
So. Talk about the Knicks' depth, because you talked a lot about the starting lineup. How do you say their depth compares to the rest of the NBA? And then, I know you've talked about this before. We talked about it a nick of time. How does their depth rank up? How's their bench rank up with the other benches in the league? And then, what do they need?
I think bench nowadays is different because the Boston Celtics won with 3 guys. Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. I feel like I'm blanking on the last guy. But they won with 3 bench players, 3 good bench players. And I think it's going to be different now. I think it's different the way the Knicks are going to play. They're going to have these 3 good bench players. 3 good bench players. And they have, once they're healthy, they're going to have Hart, Precious, and Deuce McBride. Those are 3 very good to decent bench players, and that's good enough. If you have a very good starting lineup as that, you can have 8 players run 8-man, maybe 9 if you play like a big man off the bench. You can play Jericho if you want to. It depends. But if you have those 8 guys, you're fine. The Celtics did it with 8 guys, no injuries, but the Celtics went with 8 guys. So I
8
think
guys in the playoffs?
yeah. I think you got to keep for the Knicks. You got to keep your head above water. But once it gets playoff time, we're talking about the depth more. You just have to have 8 guys.
Well, the bench shortens in the playoffs.
Yes, but the Celtics didn't have a good bench in the regular season, but they had their starting lineup just be better than teams. So we'll see. For the Knicks, I think their bench.
What would you say that the Celtics could get away with a limited bench a lot more than the Knicks can?
We'll see. I don't know because of how good the Knicks starting lineup is. I don't know though, because you still have Hart off the bench. You still have Dude Mine off the bench.
So you said the Knicks starting lineup is a top 3 starting lineup. So it's Boston and Denver.
I think OKC with their. I think their OKC starting.
So the Knicks starting lineup is better than Denver.
Yeah, I think so.
But the Knicks.
Yeah, OKC starting lineup
and the
is.
Mets just took a 2-0 lead.
Oh,
Vientos.
There we go.
Homer.
That's a righty. That's a righty of Mark Vientos.
Yeah, it went the opposite way. Yeah. So the New York Mets.
So yeah, Shea, Caruso, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Isaiah Hartenstein. That's a very good starting lineup, and you have that bench and for the OKC Thunder. I think that I don't know that could go head to head with the Knicks. I think the Knicks are tied for 2. If I was going to give it, either tied for 2, like tied for 2. That's the Knicks tied for 2.
Says we're just watching the Mets
Yes.
here. Vientos is celebrating the dugout. A lot of pressure on Philadelphia, man. And that was a good approach there from Vientos. He went the opposite way. Ball wasn't hit particularly hard. They said the exit velo is 99 miles an hour, which is not a ball that's just crushed. It's just a nice piece of hitting. Take advantage of a short porch. Go up 2-0. Long way to go, but it's looking good for the New York Mets. So, Jack, anything else you have on the Knicks right now? Anywhere else you want to go? Again, we're just starting first preseason game tonight. Opening night, 16 days away. Going to be at Boston. Boston's going to be raising their 18th banner. I don't know if they're getting their rings that night, but they're raising the banner. So that'll be an exciting night.
I think they get their rings. I think they get their rings. It's a whole ceremony.
Yeah. So anything else you want to cover?
Which I will be not watching. Which I won't be watching.
Oh, I won't watch it either. I mean, Knicks, I got to watch them celebrate. They got it done. But
I'll be watching the MSG pregame.
Kind of bothers me that Jeff Van Gundy got a ring with them. I don't despise the Boston Celtics. I mean, I don't know if you do or not, but I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, so I don't like the Celtics. But it kind of bothered me that Van Gundy. I love Van Gundy. Kind of bothered me he got a ring with that, but he's now with the Clippers as an assistant coach.
Yeah. It's kind of without the Knicks, I feel like they made that deal, and now they have their starting lineup they believe in, and that Thibodeau drew up, and Leon Rose and all the front office drew up, and they were ready to make that type of move where they're going to make their starting lineup top 3 in the league.
Yeah. Now, I always love to go into the big picture stuff. What would you say is the bare minimum the Knicks have to do this year, and for you to call it a successful season? Successful season is different than what I think. Not their potential. Do you think their potential is to win the NBA championship?
Yes, and that's a potential, but I don't know if they'll do it. But
what's the bare minimum they got to do for you to say
make the conference finals? Make the conference finals. Go about 5.
What if they get swept in the conference finals?
I was about to say go 5 or 6 with the Celtics.
Okay.
Win a game or 2.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, but then expectations could change.
Well, if injuries,
season.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Injuries. Yeah, I mean, injuries could derail your season.
Yeah.
But I'm even talking the opposite direction. Say the Knicks make a big trade at the deadline, that could then change the expectations. Okay, now the Knicks have gotten closer to the Celtics.
And maybe the Celtics.
So now it's got to be you got to go at least 6. You got to go 7. I don't know if the Knicks could the Knicks get to a point where they make a big trade
I think I'm
and things come together where you say it's get to the finals or bust?
I don't know if the Knicks can really do that.
Probably can't do that this year. Right?
No, and I think that's going to be the expectation for the whole entire year because if the Knicks make a trade, it's going to be on the edges. It's going to be Mitchell Robinson for a backup way, and that's
So you don't see any way they catch the Celtics in terms of talent and expectations.
There could be a way, but that's like a successful season for me. If they catch it, go 6 or 7, but the bare minimum, go 5 or 6 with them. I think it's definitely a possibility they beat the Celtics, but I think my realistic approach is 5 or 6.
So we've talked a decent amount about how the Knicks stack up with the Celtics, and the Celtics are still clearly ahead of the Knicks, but the Knicks are creeping up. But then the best teams in the East, how far are they from the Knicks? We got something with the Giants?
101-yard fumble return.
Is it 7-0?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a long day out in Seattle for the New York Giants. Seattle's a good team this year. And the Giants, well, not good. But the contenders in the East, where do they stack with the Knicks?
I think they're the top of tier 2. Like what I mean by tier 2 is the Sixers, Bucks.
And we talked about that last week. So how close are the Bucks, Sixers, those two teams? Who else? Who else would you? Pacers.
In my opinion, I don't think they're that close to the Knicks.
None of them are?
I think the Bucks could be close if Middleton's healthy. But
what is the Bucks deal? Like, shouldn't they be better than they've been?
Dame and Giannis really need to. When you have that type of thing, it's all fairy tale. Like, let's get this pick and pop going. Let's win games. But it's not fairy tale. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. You got to have everybody around them.
Do they lack? Well, they clearly do. What do they lack in terms of the playoffs? They lost in the first round the last 2 years.
They lack defense, point of attack defender, and they got shredded by Brunson in all the games. They got shredded. They just got shredded by all the points. They had Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard as their starting backcourt. They couldn't find a good defender in the front. I feel like that's the thing about the Knicks is Josh Hart's gonna be your front court defender. Josh Hart's gonna be your backcourt defender. So when you have those great guards, you put him against Josh Hart, and that's the difference between the Knicks and the Bucks. Is when you have they're great, amazing guards in the NBA, even on teams that are subpar like the Hawks and Trae Young. You got to put a good guard defender against them. You still got to put a good guard defender against them.
I really didn't like it. This is personal because I'm a big Seton Hall guy, but they fired Adrian Griffin with 30-13, so they put the blame on him, which is way too much of that in sports. I mean, you really see in the NBA, but you see in other sports too. So he got the blame. I'll get him out of here. He's the problem. And then they were worse after that, right?
At the end of the
day,
day,
got bounced in the first round. So clearly it wasn't him. And I'm making an emotional argument here because Griffin's a Seton Hall guy. That aspect of it bothered me a lot. But even if he wasn't a Seton Hall guy, I can't stand when that happens. When it's the coach who's the problem. Even though they're 30-13, now maybe they think, well, we should be 35-8 or whatever. But you didn't get better. You bring in Jason Kidd, and then you get bounced in the first round. So there's clearly something wrong beyond again the metrics. It's beyond some metrics thing. There's something wrong with the Milwaukee Bucks.
My big thing is that they thought they could scheme up a better defense. You can't scheme a better defense when your guard defenders are Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard. You just gotta get better.
So their defense problem is talent.
Talent. Effort's there, but you also have to have talent. And
I was going to ask you, do they have an effort or chemistry issue?
Well, those are different
things.
Damon Giannis, but I feel like you definitely need that.
Although I think those things are intertwined.
Yes, but I don't know. The players didn't want to. It's something like the players didn't want to play for Adrian Griffin. It's just but you can't scheme up a better defense if you don't have good defensive players. Thibodeau, as good of a defensive coach he is, great defensive players. Great defensive players he has. He has OG, Mikal.
So is it a misnomer?
Josh Hart.
Misnomer? Is it false when people say defense is about effort? I mean, because I've heard it's all about effort, but then I've heard it's about effort. Like, it is about effort, but it's said in a way where it's like effort is the most important thing. Is that true? or is that false?
Malik Beasley can give as much effort as he wants to, but he's still going to get blown by. And
so is talent on defense?
You have talent and effort. You can't be just OG Anunoby and not give effort. You cannot be just OG Anunoby, just let people go by you because you don't care. You got to still be OG Anunoby effort wise. So you got to have both.
But do you think defensive talent is minimized? It's not stressed enough? Because I always hear like defense is just effort, and people question the effort of players on defense.
Trae Young gave effort
particularly
last
NBA
year.
These guys don't play hard defense. The Knicks play really hard defense. But I get you watch a lot more NBA than I do, but I watch enough, and I mean you can see the Knicks how they go after it. Other teams not as much, but I think that's like one of those conventional wisdom things where it's
Trae Young gave effort last year,
but you need talent too.
Trae Young gave effort that last year. He just wasn't good. That's I think that you could have that. You can have that, but you can also have a good defender who just doesn't give effort. DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray has all the tools to be a good defender. Didn't give effort.
Effort clearly matters, but if you don't have the talent, then you're not going to play good defense.
No, you can try, but you're not.
Yeah. But the Knicks seem like they have the defensive talent,
and they also have the effort. They're closing out. They're doing everything well, and the effort comes from Tom Thibodeau. If you want to play for Tom Thibodeau, you got to give effort, and also he has the good defense play.
It's refreshing to watch the Knicks. They play basketball the right way. And they're very good, and there's high expectations, but you also want your team and your sports in general. Like you want it to be enjoyable, and you want to watch guys who give max effort, that play well as a
Josh
team,
Hart,
where it's a good product. And I think the current Knicks are a very good product, on top of being a very good team.
Yes, because you can tune on a random regular season game against the Pistons. They're still closing out hard. You look at the Bucks; they're just letting people shoot. Let's do a lazy closeout. But that's just the difference. Knicks are just closing out hard, and they're not letting them go high. Where the Bucks could be like, I'm going to close out this, yeah.
But I tell you, with us doing this show, and then with your Knick of Time show, I'm be watching a lot of Knicks this year. It's because my sports viewing. I got my teams. I watch my teams. Jack knows I was a diehard Knicks fan growing up. I'm a Knicks fan. I don't call myself a diehard anymore. I mean, Jack's as diehard as it gets. But if it's a good product, I'll watch. And it's exciting. The Knicks are good again. The Garden's buzzing. The Rangers are very good. So have both of those teams very good. So it'll be exciting. The Rangers start this week. So we'll talk some hockey at some point, but not now. But the Knicks are a very good product. So they're a team that, if you're a sports fan, you're a basketball fan, you're a Knicks fan particularly, they're a team that you want to tune in and watch. So I know that I'll be watching a lot of the Knicks this year. I know Jack will probably watch every possession and break it all down. And we're going to talk a lot about them as it goes. Hopefully.
Think about the Knicks. They got Mikal Bridges, they got OG Anunoby. That's fun. But if you don't play effort, you don't play with effort, you don't play with Tom Thibodeau, then you're not going to be good. And Tom Thibodeau has really been like, it's like a new toy for him. You always got to just, find ways to win with them. And
Thibodeau, for an older Knicks fan, he brings you back. It makes me think, because him and Van Gundy are tied together. He coached under Van Gundy. I think they're very similar. It's just nice. Like Thibodeau, I think, is a big piece of it. He's clearly the right coach for the team. They clearly have a really good
and they
mix.
buy in. I think a lot of people throw that thing around. You got to buy in. You got to actually buy it. And I feel like Leon Rose put together a very good team that are really good at buying in. You get Josh Hart at the deadline a few years ago. You get a Mikal Bridges. You get guys who are gonna buy in easily. Who are gonna buy in.
The Knicks have all that. It seems like the Celtics. We're talking a lot of Celtics because the Celtics are the best team in the NBA. They won the championship. They're the team that everybody's chasing. The Celtics. It seems like they have some issues with Tatum and Brown. Them. I'm not saying those guys don't like each other, but is there a rivalry there? Like it seems like there's something there, and I think they have more problems in that regard. And if the Knicks are really in a spot where they're close to the Celtics, I'm going to ask you this question. Could that be a factor come playoff time where maybe, the Celtics are better, but the gap isn't that big? And the Knicks, because they have those intangibles, because of their tenacious defense, because of their chemistry, because of their effort, because of their coaching, that could be the difference against the Celtics. And maybe they could win a series against the Celtics. A grind of a series, 6, probably 7. But could that alone get them over the hump against Boston? Or is Boston just too good talent-wise right now?
I think yes, but I feel like the Celtics, I feel like you're selling them short of the effort. I feel like they give a lot of effort in the playoffs they don't give effort.
No, I'm not saying they don't give effort, but I should be more clear. It's not an effort thing because they do give an effort.
I'm not trying to.
But it's their, yeah, I got to be clear about what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the dynamics in their locker room. Are there, is it just a media creation? Because I'll be honest, I listen to Boston sports radio. I listen quite a bit. I'm a big Red Sox fan. We haven't talked too much about that because they're not a factor this time of year and haven't been for a while. But I listen to a lot of Boston sports radio, and I'll listen to them talk about the Celtics, the Patriots, the Bruins. So when they talk Celtics, they talk a lot about the Brown Tatum thing and the locker room dynamics, and there's criticisms for Joe Mazzulla. So is there truth to that stuff, or is that just sports talk radio in Boston making a big deal about nothing?
It used to be a thing, but I feel like they gotta buy into Tatum being this leader. I feel like they did. I feel like you gotta buy into Tatum being this leader, and everybody gotta fall in place. I know Tatum doesn't have his great games, but if Tatum's a leader in that locker room, Jaylen Brown's gonna fall in place. And I feel like Jaylen Brown had great games, but I feel like you gotta look at that and be like, he's a leader. Like I think in other sport, in the Knicks, you have that leader in Jalen Brunson, and everybody just else falls in place. But the Celtics, it's been at some points where Jason Tatum
Schwarber just crushed one. So we got to. Oh wow!
No,
did you think that was a home run?
Yes, I did because
we'll give a double play now
because of all the fans going crazy.
I thought that was gone.
I thought it was gone because of fan reaction.
We got to see the replay on that. It would have been a tie game, but it didn't go out. It wasn't even that close. Huh? Continue in the Knicks though.
Well,
regain your train of thought.
What was I trying to talk about?
Yeah, I forgot too after that. Let's see this again. Yeah, we can't tell from that. Yeah, so
chemistry in Boston.
Oh, I think that was the runner in motion. Yeah, the chemistry. So Tatum and Brown. Yeah,
I think it's turned into be like, okay, let's be unselfish. I think the Celtics bought into this. Let's be unselfish, and I love that about them. I think they have really bought in. I don't love the Celtics, but I think I've loved the really maturity of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That looked out of here, but and the fan behind there jumping up and down, I thought it was gone. But they have gained maturity and of just being unselfish. We're gonna just do this together. We're not gonna win by I'm gonna have 40. Oh, look at me. I'm on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I don't want to do that. So I want to win together.
Tatum and Brown push each other. So is it actually a positive thing where maybe there's some rivalry stuff there, but it's a healthy, competitive thing?
I think it's healthy because at the end of the day, they want to be an unselfish basketball team because they know that's the only way they're going to win. They're not going to win because Jason Tatum takes 30, 40 shots. And
those guys care about championships.
They care about championships. They definitely do because they did it last year. And they look at how unselfish they were. Look at how unselfish Drew Holiday was. Look at how unselfish Porzingis was.
And they were just dominated.
They were just dominated because
they had an easy road to the finals.
Because
they took care of Dallas very easily.
Yeah.
And Dallas was on a good run. I mean, they had a great playoffs. But yeah, I mean, Boston was just so dominant last year. So it's going to be tough to dethrone them. It's going to be tough to beat them. But the Knicks are up there. It's going to be very interesting. We'll see how the season progresses. It is a long season, 82 games. The trade deadline is going to affect things big time. Obviously, as you said, health. But it's exciting times for the New York Knicks, and they start tonight the preseason, and then they start regular season in 16 days at Boston to take on the Celtics. So, Jack, let's shift gears. We've talked Mets. We have talked New York Knicks. Let's get into a little bit of NFL. The Jets lost again today. They were down big against Minnesota. They were down 17-0 in the first half. They made a significant comeback. They were down 6. They actually cut it to 3 at 20-17. Minnesota tacked on a field goal. Jets were down 6 with the ball. They were driving, and then Rodgers threw a pick at the end, and the Jets lost today in London to Minnesota 23-17. So the Jets are in trouble. I think it's same old Jets. I don't think much has changed. That loss last week was horrific. We were watching that live. The field goal was missed, but it was way more than the field goal. That was just an inexcusable loss. And then today against Minnesota, who is 5-0, I don't think they're as good as their record shows, but they're off to a really good start. I don't see how you can be optimistic about the Jets. I'm not ruling them out, getting it together a little bit, sneaking in the playoffs. It's possible they have the talent to do it, but that situation is a mess. Not the right coach. The whole situation with Rodgers is just a mess. It's just not. It doesn't work. It just does not work. That whole dynamic doesn't work, and they're in a tough spot schedule wise. But the Bills go to MetLife Stadium next week, and then the Jets go to Pittsburgh. I mean, they're staring 2-5 right in the face.
Yeah, because Pittsburgh defensively is really good, and the Bills are Josh Allen, and you're gonna have to play against Josh Allen. But I think with the Jets is that they need to use their players more and not running the ball for 17 plays. I know you're trying to fight uphill, but you got Brees Hall. Try to get this guy in motion. Try to get this guy the ball. I'm not saying this because he's on my fantasy team. It's like he's great, and you shouldn't use him at all. Where's the offensive coordinator? And the thing that I'm very proud of the Giants are doing is trying to get Malik Neighbors the ball whenever you can. Yeah. And if it means just handing the ball, or just
I think a big factor with the Jets is coaching. You have a young team besides your Hall of Fame quarterback. It just doesn't work. This whole situation just doesn't work, and I don't understand how people bought into this from the beginning. Jack, honestly, I'm wrong about a lot of things. I'm particularly talking sports. I've been wrong plenty. I've made terrible predictions over the course of many years, but going into last season, I said the Jets would be 8-9, and that was before Rodgers got hurt. I said, look, I just don't see this thing working. And part of it's just, the Jets' history and all that. But the Jet culture starts at the top of Woody Johnson, who's really not even active. I mean, he's a passive owner. He's not a hands-on owner, but it starts from the top. They got the wrong head coach. Seems like a really nice guy, really good defensive coach, but Saleh's not the guy. They got the wrong offensive coordinator. They let Rodgers run the team. And it just doesn't work. And they need the right coaching. They need the right leadership to bring along this young team that has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. And it's just immensely frustrating if you're a Jet fan, if you're involved with the Jets in any way. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it's weird because they have the talent there, as we talked about, and that it just doesn't work. And you've said it doesn't work, but I think it's more of like the coaches. It doesn't work with the coaches. Like, you bring these players, and the coaches have to use them in ways, and they just didn't use their players. This is the first game they've used Garrett Wilson. Like, I know Garrett Wilson's getting guarded by a corner, one of the best corners in the league. You're getting guarded by the corner on the Broncos, Patrick Surtain. But you got to get the guy the ball. You got to try to get the guy the ball, and it's just
other teams find a way to get their best guy when he's being doubled or they're keying on him. The coaching's huge. It's not all coaching, but it just doesn't work. The
defense
that's the
when
best way to put it. This thing just does not work. And I think as the season goes, they'll pick off a good team. Like, maybe they go beat the Bills. I wouldn't be surprised to beat the Bills next week. And I think the Bills are very good, and Josh Allen's terrific. He's got to prove himself in the playoffs. But, yeah, I can see the Jets.
They're going to beat the Patriots. They have the Texans.
They might lose at the Patriots. That's the kind of game you see. They go there and they lose some.
And they play at the Jets. They play at home against the Texans, and they play away against the Cardinals, at home against the Colts.
But you know what the Jets will do? They will win games where it's like, next week's the type of game. I'm not saying I think they're going to win.
They'll come to play against the Bills.
But
they'll come to play.
I just wouldn't be surprised. Like, okay, like the Jets, they go out and beat the Bills, and then they go to Pittsburgh,
and
they lose a tough game on the road.
Yeah.
And then they go lose another game at least against a team that they should not lose to, like Denver at home. Like, that's coming. And at the end of the year, it's going to be either massively disappointing. They're 8-9. Could they be worse? I guess it's possible, but I'm going to say 8-9. Maybe they sneak to 9-8. Maybe somehow 10-7. They would have to go 8-4.
But
so, that's asking a lot.
Let me be the host a little bit right now. Devontae Adams rumored to the Jets. What do you think that does if they get him? And also, how do you think that pushes the needle if it does at all? getting that wide receiver and getting him and Garrett Wilson. And they know
Yeah,
each
it's
other.
going to help them.
Rodgers
They're better,
and
but
Adams.
But it's not going to. Of course, it's going to help them. Adding the personnel, but they're still going to find a way to mess it up. And I think we talked about this last week, where you have the expectations for the Jets that have been set by the organization, by the fans as a whole, where it's Super Bowl or bust because of how long it's been since the Jets have been in the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, and it's like, we got to do it now. And I think that's reasonable. It's like you bring in a Hall of Fame quarterback to try to be that guy that takes them over the hump, takes this young, talented team to a Super Bowl and hopefully a Super Bowl championship. But I look at it, I'm like, that's not happening. Like, and I didn't think it was going to happen before last year. I didn't think it was going to happen before this year. And for the franchise just to make the playoffs, I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs in 14 years. So if they made the playoffs this year, I would personally say, all right, like you made the playoffs. And I think it also depends how they make the playoffs. You know, is it you sneak in at 9-8 versus a solid year at 10-7, 11-6? Like, I don't think there's any way 11-6 is happening now. You know, but there is talent there. There's plenty of talent there, both sides of the ball, particularly on defense, but also offense. Yeah, if you bring in Adams, you know, that adds to your talent and that should make you a better team. But I think the way they're coached, I think the Rodgers situation, I think they will find a way to mess it up. I just don't think this whole thing works. And it's like, yeah, maybe by talent alone, you get into the playoffs. But, you know, and they can say, oh, if you get in the playoffs, you make a run.
But then you match up with talent. Then you match up with other talent.
This team will not make a run.
Even if you make the playoffs, as I said, you're going to match up with talent. So it's talent versus talent right now. You're playing a talented team. So is your talent better than the other talent?
You're going to be playing a team with a lot better coaching. You're going to be playing, if you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, like, of course, they're the two-time Super Bowl champions. They're a juggernaut. But other teams that you could play, too, like they're better coached. Talent, you could call it equal, or maybe the other team's talent is even better. This team's not this team.
But it comes out of coaching in the playoffs, definitely a lot. Like because everybody has a talent.
And it's silly to even talk playoffs right now. It's just like they're a mess. They're 2-3. This can't be going any worse. Like they're 2-3. I mean, they got demolished in San Francisco, and I couldn't stand hearing people say, "Oh, it's such a tough game to start the season." Like you, the fans. The organization, have set the expectations, Super Bowl or bust, all this stuff. And then you're going to say, oh, wait a minute, no, we played San Francisco? Okay, well, San Francisco went to overtime in the Super Bowl, almost beat Kansas City. Okay, San Francisco's the cream of the crop in the league besides Kansas City. You could argue they're right up there with them. They went to overtime with them in the Super Bowl. Okay, and then you go there and get crushed on Monday Night Football, you know, and you were lucky it wasn't worse than that because San Francisco, I think, kicked, 5 or 6 field goals? Like that game wound up a 14-point game. It was really a 4-score game. So that was week 1. Then they struggle with Tennessee. Okay, you go on the road game. Tennessee's not good. You beat them.
You might struggle on the road against
the team. Yeah. They took it to the New England Patriots. And, oh, man, they crushed the Patriots.
Oh, look at Aaron Rodgers.
They got the job done fine. You're 2-1. But then last week's a disaster, inexcusable. And then this week, I mean, I'm not giving them credit for coming back in the game much. I'm not. Okay, fine. You didn't lay down. You didn't fall apart. But you went down 17-0. You didn't play well. You didn't win the game. You needed a win. You went all the way to London. Okay, Minnesota's 5-0. But come on. You really think Minnesota's that good? They're not.
But again, Minnesota. You have to beat those teams. If you put the expectation on it, as you said,
talent-wise, who's better, the Jets or the Vikings?
I don't know. Sam Darnold's playing really well this season, I think.
But even if you want to call it even, it's like the Jets are
coaching. It goes down to coaching. Kevin O'Connell versus Robert Saleh.
Right. It's a mess. They're a mess, and I
Justin Jefferson is pretty good.
What do you now?
That's the talent there. Yeah. Like Justin Jefferson with talent, he's amazing. So
what are you now looking to get out of the season for the Jets? Like if you're still thinking Super Bowl and all, like come on, I mean, you can't be thinking Super Bowl.
That's why I said to my Jets fans, I know, okay, your expectations are Super Bowl. But now you're telling me, oh, my God, we lost to San Francisco 49ers. I was expecting it. You're expecting a Super Bowl. Why are you expecting to lose the 49ers? Why are you now you're taking back your statement of the Super Bowl?
it's just so inconsistent.
Yes.
It's like it just flip-flops between Super Bowl or bust, and then it's no, we play San Francisco. So, but if your expectations were to just be
a playoff team, yeah,
right, just be a playoff team, have a real good chance to make the playoffs and make the playoffs. If that was just your expectations, then you could say, okay, well, we're not going to beat San Francisco. So go take care of business against Tennessee and New England, but then you got to take care of business against Denver.
yeah.
You know, even if you lost today, if you would beat Denver, okay, you're 3-2. So you're like, all right, 3-2, like you're in a good position to be a playoff team. Now they're staring 2-5 in the face. You know, so again, they're a mess. They're a mess, and I do not see how anybody could look at the Jets and be optimistic about where they're at and where they're going.
That's why the Rodgers move, I feel like, kind of handcuffed them. As I've said, like you got to put that expectation on you as Super Bowl if you have somebody like Aaron Rodgers. That's why I've said bringing in Aaron Rodgers is not my favorite thing. I mean, you got to bring yourself a Hall of Fame quarterback, but it kind of handcuffs you to an expectation of you got to win the Super Bowl.
Honestly, I was for it when they got him.
But
I was for it. I'm like, it's worth the chance. But at that time,
the expectation of what comes with it.
At that time, I didn't realize how bad the coaching is. Like, I was unsure of Saleh, but that was after his second year. And it's like, all right, now you bring Rodgers in. But then the way that training camp went and Hard Knocks, and it was clear that Rodgers is running the team, is like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. You can't make it work like this. And Hackett's the offensive coordinator. So once we got closer to the regular season last year, I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. Again, I'll be fair. I was glad they brought him in. I thought it was worth a chance. But this thing is a disaster, and I don't see how it turns around. So, Jack, do you want to go to the Giants? You want to talk a little bit about Giants? They're in action right now. We have Phillies Mets on.
7-7. Oh, we scored. A 7-yard catch for Wan'Dale Robinson. Well, they don't have Devin Singletary, or they don't have Malik Neighbors, so big game for Wan'Dale Robinson fantasy owners. But yeah, I mean, I think the big thing about the Giants is the catching. I mean, you got to be able to catch a football. That's what you're paid to do. And Daniel Jones dropping back, as bad as he is throwing the ball down the field, if he give you a check down to get the first down, you got to be able to pick that football up and catch it. So that it's just little things about the Giants that could turn the big things. And you're not catching that football on third down, turns into a big thing. I think just little things turn into big things. And the Giants could have beat I know we're saying could have, would have, should have, but they could have beat the Cowboys, and you could have beat then you beat the Browns. So there's could have, would have, should have, but then you're staring at 2 wins and you feel a little bit better. But it's just you got to be able to finish drives, and I think it's a lot of teams. That's coaching. It comes down to coaching, or comes down to
what is there that should give Giants fans hope? I'm not saying for a playoff year, they're not going to be close to the playoffs, but what is it that gives Giants fans
the simple fact of you have a top 5 receiver, you have a top 5, top 7 receiver. That's something that not a lot of teams have. When you have that versatile weapon, in Malik Neighbors, not a lot of teams have that. A lot of teams feel jealous of you that you have somebody like Malik Neighbors. I mean, they're not jealous of you, the quarterback, but Malik Neighbors. People want Malik Neighbors. People are jealous that the Giants have Malik Neighbors. So just having it in your mind that people are jealous that you have somebody like Malik Neighbors, is a great thing to have, and you can build off of that. You can build around him. That's great. And it's rookie season. He's playing amazing. Like, he's caught balls that have been thrown terribly by Daniel Jones. Caught the ball. Like, just he's made Daniel Jones' job a lot easier. And imagine if he gets an actual quarterback. Imagine what that feels like. I don't imagine that. I know everybody else imagines.
So are you totally done with Daniel Jones?
I think if you can't complete a ball down the field, a deep ball, I'm going to be done with you. And if you underthrow it, of course, like, I got to be done with you. But we'll see. I mean, the guy's a good quarterback. The guy's a decent quarterback. But it's just, will he take us over the hump? Like, does somebody like Malik Neighbors deserve that? A decent quarterback? No, I don't think so.
There's only so many of those guys. You know, I mean, you could get that guy by drafting him. Yeah, I mean, that's what the Giants are hoping for. You know, get a top pick and draft that guy, but then you're going to make the right pick.
Yep. And if you don't, then staring at the same problem where you have this superstar wide receiver, where it will come to that point where Malik Neighbors. I know I'm banking it in already, but when you watch him play, he's like a spark. He's like a spark plug out of this team that has no life. I know he's concussed right now, but he's been a spark plug out of a team that has no life. So I'm kind of banking it in. He's going to be at least a star.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
that's
I,
a good way to put it with the Giants. It's just there's no life there. It's just they're just it's just meh. Like the Giants have not been a factor in a long time now. I mean, they had that nice season a couple of years ago, pretty nice schedule, but they had a good season, won a playoff game, but then they got blitzed by Philly. It's been a long time for the Giants. It's just like a blah team and franchise right now, and
expectations, again, we talked about expectations. Expectations were held high after they beat the Vikings in the next season.
I thought they'd have a good year last year.
Yeah.
I thought they were building something, and then it
Especially
was
at that first drive, and they threw the ball over Daniel Jones' head, and that was over. It was over. Done.
40-0 on opening night.
Yeah, and they drove down the field. That was like amazing. First drive, they marched down the field, but then throw the ball over the head, and it's done.
Anything on the Yankees?
I'm not.
I feel like they're not even interesting to talk about. I mean, look, you don't like the Yankees. I don't like the Yankees. But it's not even about that. Like, if they were interested,
play.
And the Mets are up 2-0 through 4 innings, they just threw out Stott. He's trying to steal second base.
Alvarez, I think he's making those plays, man. Those plays have to be made from your catcher, and he's shown me he can make those plays.
Yeah, you wonder now with the Phillies. I mean, again, a veteran team, but they're up against it here. I mean, there's a long way to go in this game, 2-0 through 4. But New York Mets, they're getting it done. And
they're showing no fear, which is a lot of teams have fear when they go in this environment in the Phillies.
Phillies bats got to get going. I mean, they've done nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go quiet this time of year. Again, best of 5 series. I mean, you have to step up, and you have to.
And also,
Severino big hits. I thought Schwarber crushed that one. I want to see that replay, but it came up short. So the Mets with a 2-0 lead after 4 in game 2. But again, back to the Yankees, and we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. Look, the Yankees are clearly the favorites in the American League. I think they got a nice path. Yankees are a good team. I don't think they're great. They got 2 megastars in Judge and Soto. I mean, they're as good as it gets. So if you're an opposing team, opposing pitching staff trying to navigate through their lineup, having to face those 2 guys, it's a tall task. But their lineup, the rest of the lineup, I mean, it's okay. It's decent, but they really rely heavily on Judge and Soto. I mean, Verdugo last night had the big hit to give the Yankees the lead. It wound up being the game-winning hit as they won 6-5. It was a sloppy, ugly game at Yankee Stadium last night, but the Yankees do get game 1 against Kansas City, who is a young team and experienced, but they beat the Baltimore Orioles in the wild card round, swept them. The pitching was really good. It'll be a tall task for the Royals. I don't think they're out of it. I mean, if they go and win game 2 tomorrow at Yankee Stadium, well, then they go home and it's 1-1. But Yankees are clearly the favorite in the American League. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win the pennant because that's the way MLB postseason goes. And Cleveland looks like they're very good. I mean,
Cleveland's handling their business. I feel like that's the big thing. The Yankees didn't handle their business at all. They had to bring out a closer and everything, but the Guardians, they handled their business.
Yeah. So look, it's no cakewalk for the Yankees. It's a nice path, though. I mean, the American League this year is weak. It's one of the weaker leagues in baseball.
And you look at what the Mets are going to play. They're going to play the Phillies and the Dodgers, basically.
The National League is a lot better. Yeah, with the Phillies, with the Dodgers, with the Padres, who are very good. I mean, that Dodgers-Padres series, you can make the case that the 2 best teams in baseball are playing in that series. So the National League is far better. The American League, which works out for the Yankees, because, again, the Yankees have a path. They're clearly the favorite in the American League. But again, I just don't find them that interesting to talk about. There's just what's the storyline with them? You can say, well, they haven't been in the World Series or won it in 15 years. So, the hunger of their fan base and their organization to get back to the World Series and win one. You can say down the road, a World Series matchup, if it's Yankees-Mets, obviously Subway Series, Yankees-Dodgers would be electric. Yankees-Phillies would be really good. Even Yankees-Padres would be interesting. But, I just think right now the Yankees, you're doing a talk show, there's a lot more interesting things to talk about. And I think the Mets, when it just comes to baseball, the Mets are a lot more interesting of a story than the Yankees are. Doesn't mean the Mets are better than the Yankees. I don't think they are.
But once the Yankees start losing, then we're gonna talk.
Oh, if the Yankees had lost game 1, we might have spent the whole show on that. No, I'm just kidding. Even that, I just don't think they're much of a story yet. Down the line, even maybe ALCS. We'll see with Cleveland. But right now, the story in baseball is the New York Mets. I mean, I don't think there's another team, another story that compares to what the Mets are currently doing. So, Jack, any final thoughts before we wrap up our second episode of Jacked Up and Being Frank?
No, I hear great things already about the Knicks start. How Cat's playing amazing. But
You're gonna break down the tape later, the video.
It's not really a lot to talk about. It's a preseason game, but I'll bring it up that their Cats looking amazing. Something like that. Hit a long three. Oh, that looked great as a center hitting a long three for the New York Knicks. I haven't seen that in a long time. I've seen a lot of Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein. Now we have a big time 3-point shooter. Feels crazy.
So before we go, you want to give us a promo for your Nick of Time show, for this channel? Just give the audience a little bit on what's upcoming and what Nick of Time particularly is all about.
Yeah, it's more shorter form content. If you want to watch more shorter form content, it's Nick of Time for you. I think it gives you shorter, it's like 15 to 30 minutes of content of the Knicks. I mean, if you love the Knicks and you just love people talk about it, I think that's a great place to look, is my content. I think there's other great places to look, but I feel like my content gives you a shorter, and I think it gives you a real outline, and I'll tell you everything that's happening. I'll be honest with you, but I also show that I love the Knicks, and that's what I love. And then also preseason games, we'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to really focus on the bigger stories now. And if the Knicks are playing the Celtics, how the Knicks match up and that stuff. But I also talk about how the preseason game looks, how the stars look.
You clearly love the Knicks, but you give truly objective analysis of the team. I think you do a great job of that. I mean, you could tell you're a fan, but you keep your analysis objective, your wealth of knowledge. You have a great ability to break the game down, and great analytical skills, and then entertainment. You provide entertainment value. It's fun. You're humorous. So I think your show does a great job of having that mix of great information, great analysis, presenting it objectively, and then providing entertainment as well.
But yeah, when the Knicks start winning, it's gonna be happier for me. I'm gonna have happier analysts. If the Knicks play in a series against the Celtics, they win, I'll look happier. I'll sound happier, and I think. But I'll still give you an objective review of how the Celtics plays, if they can build off of that, build off a loss or something like that. I'll give you objective. I'm not going to give you, the Knicks are amazing. Oh, that's going to be it. No, I'm going to give you what the other team is. And that's why I try to break down the Wolves side of it, because I love breaking down other teams when they make the trades. I want to see what the GM's kind of thinking.
Yeah, so Jack's next episode of Nick of Time is coming up this week. It'll be the third episode of season 2. We're going to be back for Jacked Up and Being Frank, our first season here. We've had 2 episodes so far. Today's last week, so check those out. They're in the archives on your channel.
Yeah.
We will be back with another show next weekend. At that time, we'll be into the championship series, the American League and the National League in the postseason. We'll have more NFL.
Maybe the Mets will be there. Maybe they won't. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about a lot about how they play in the LDS.
Yeah, same thing for the Yankees. So a lot's going to happen between now and then, and we'll certainly have a lot to talk about next week. So for Jack Yablonowitz, I am Frank Aranio. Thank you so much for joining us here on Jacked Up and Being Frank. Again, check out Jack's Knicks podcast, The Nick of Time. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Have a great week, and we will see you next weekend.